to the In My World podcast. Today we have Mitch Gray on for a second episode of In My World. Ooh,
is this the second person? Yes.
Actually, no, it's not.
Isn't it?
We've had one before.
Have we?
It's the second person.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
So obviously we got Mitch Gray here. He's done his 60 marathons in 60 days, and he's probably a month out of completion of that.
Just over 2 months.
2 months out of completion of that. So he runs 60 marathons in 60 days and raise over $140,000 for 20 Talk. An incredible effort. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what he's learned over that journey, some lessons, some experiences, some stories.
Yeah, we just want to get the goss, mate. We just want to, see how you pulled up and what you've been thinking about and stuff. So that'll be good.
Yeah.
So, late, you want to start us off, or?
Well, yeah. Do you want to just tell us, how did it all start when you started doing your running? What did that kind of first week look like when you did your marathons?
Yeah, I think the first week was a whirlwind. Like the build up felt so long. We were obviously hyping it up for quite a while, trying to raise a lot of money with the sponsors and with my work at Multiplex, sort of spreading the word. And my mind was in a million places leading up. I was training a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously working full time still at that point. And then I remember it sort of got to day one and it got to like rocking up to the start line and I was like, holy shit, I actually have to run now. I was like, it was no longer just this mythical thing that I'm setting out. It just became very real, very quick.
The challenge,
and it was almost a little bit overwhelming. I felt underprepared in a way because I was it was more of an idea and then it became real. And those first few days were tough, sort of adjusting to that new, pretty bizarre lifestyle that I had going on.
So you got like all that dopamine from like talking about it for months, like, hey, I'm doing this big challenge, and you rock up on the first week and you're like, oh shit, now
I gotta do it.
Now I gotta do it, and this is where the pain begins.
How long did it take to settle into, the whole when you felt like the trauma was sort of subsiding a bit and it was becoming more of a, this is what I'm doing?
Yeah, I think looking back on it, the first one was probably in the top 3 hardest ones for sure.
Really?
Physically and mentally.
Wow.
Day 2 was probably up there as well.
Yeah.
Because I remember the first one felt like 10 hours. It felt like I was out there because I was going slow and I don't usually run slow. And it was like, felt really long. I didn't take headphones with me because I thought it was like,
just raw dog
Goggins or something. I was like, nah, I'm not doing that again. And then I woke up on the second day and I was really sore. I was like, oh no, this is what it's going to be for 2 months. Like I'm fucked here. But I think after that second day, third day, it sort of started easing into it. And I think by the end of that first week, I sort of really started coming into my strides a bit. I don't know. I was still running off adrenaline, I guess you could say. That the reality of how long it was going for hadn't really set in just yet, and I was just riding the wave, and actually I was loving it.
Yeah. You look pretty happy when I saw you.
Yeah, that first week I was bubbly, and it was I wanted people to come and run with me, and I wanted to be chatty and all of that. Which
did that end up helping you in the end, like when people were running with you, or not?
It definitely helped. Sort of sounds selfish, but when I was in a good mood, it helped. Yeah. When I was in a bad mood and when I didn't want to talk to anyone, it was like I just wanted to be in my own way and punch through it and push through it.
Yep.
Which
you didn't have to think about someone else.
Yeah, because there was a lot of times when I was running with people and I was worried about their pace and I was worried about how far they're going and how they're feeling, and that's fine when I felt good. I know it's selfish, but
it's not selfish.
it took a bit of a toll, and there was times where I just wanted to be alone and to get it done, and it was I don't know, it felt better that way. At points.
So you say the word being alone, and I think that's a pretty important word when we're reflecting on this challenge. You obviously spent a lot of time in your own brain, more than many people would in day-to-day life. Where did your mind kind of go when you were in that like space of being alone? Where did it wander? Where did you find that it would typically go?
Yeah, I guess it all depended on how I was feeling that day as to where my thoughts were going. I know days that I was feeling really good, I was like having really inspiring thoughts about, I know if I can do this, what's next? Or I was picturing the last day, I'm having all these happy thoughts about things that are happening. And then on days where I was really struggling, it was quite depressing. Hey, I was, I kept going through cycles in my mind, a lot of negativity, lacking motivation, and like there was a lot of days where I was really upset, and caught myself quite a few times in tears throughout it, which I haven't really done ever running before. Like running's usually such a rejuvenating thing for me, and all of a sudden I'm running and not enjoying it.
Yeah, because it's every day.
Yeah,
You're not.
Yeah, it was relentless.
So the tears, when you say tears, where was that stemming from?
I think the first time I really broke down, it was sort of just after halfway. I think it might have been like day 31 or day 32, and I got to halfway and it was this big milestone, and I was like, fucking oath, halfway, let's go. And then I realised I've got to do that again. Like and I was just, it defeated me. And I remember that was the day, it was probably my latest start. I just didn't start till maybe like 5 p.m. or something like that. And I started and I was just in tears and I was really not motivated. I had injuries at the time as well, which was sort of playing into it. But I remember I ran a weird route that I wouldn't usually run just because I was trying to clear my mind, and ended up sort of rocking up to the beach at sunset. And I was like, I just stopped running for a minute and I was just like, watch the sunset for a bit. And I was like, I was pretty upset. And I remember it was random. I just like looked down and my dad was standing there at the bottom of like the sand dunes waving at me. He'd obviously tracked me, my location. He knew I wasn't feeling well.
Wow.
And I went down to him at the bottom of the sand dune and we just sort of like watched the sunset together. We didn't really say much. He was like, "You all right, mate?" I was like, yeah, doing all right. And we were like, both of us pretty emotional, and you just sort of, I don't know, we shared this moment and it brought me, while I didn't see it at the time, it really took me somewhere else, because I realised that what I was doing was so important to a lot of people.
Yeah,
and I was making these that moment with my dad was something I'll probably look back on for many years. And then after that, I've sort of kept running, and some of my best mates rocked up randomly as well, and they grabbed me on the coast, and I was sort of got emotional as well. And it was pretty special,
I remember I chatted to your dad a few times at different events along the way, and it was really a special thing for your dad. Like really a special thing for your dad.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be very proud of you for doing that.
Oh, for sure. So for the listeners who might not have captured exactly what it was you did 60 marathons, which was 43 Ks, 42 per day, every day without a break. So in total, you ran how many kilometres?
Just over 2,500, which is like Perth to Adelaide, pretty much.
Which is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Jeepers.
Yeah, so it was really good. I know for me, I think it was I went out on 2 of your runs with you. Met you once, pulled a hammy trying to catch you. I won't talk about that. But the other time was it was towards the end actually, from Burns Beach to Fremantle. And I don't know how many runners we had on the journey with you.
That was a great day.
That was a good day.
That was people with me the whole way. You were there the whole way.
Yeah, I rode behind you the whole way.
Yeah, it was awesome. We had Liam, who just joined randomly, who I'd never met, ran his first marathon.
Yeah,
him.
He was.
That was awesome.
He
was in the pain cave from about 10
Yeah,
Ks.
where did he come from?
Yeah, crazy, eh?
I don't know. He just rocked up on the day.
He did so well.
Yeah.
And he pushed himself pretty hard. And it was interesting to see you talk, encouraging him on the journey, and you were at the end of your 60 marathons.
Yeah. So I can imagine, obviously you had a lot of time by yourself and you had a lot of time to reflect. Obviously you're raising a lot of money for 20 Talk and for mental health. At points of the run, did your mind kind of wonder or go think about the people that you may be helping? Is that something that kind of
100%.
fueled you? Or
yeah, that's what sort of I'd catch myself when I was really not motivated all I had to do was think about why I was doing it, the money that I'd already raised, the money that I hadn't yet raised, and how it would impact people. Like it was, when I first set this challenge for myself sort of late last year, it was a personal thing. It was I wanted to do something crazy. Then it became bigger than me pretty quickly. Like the sense of community that we were able to generate with 20 Talk and the people that were able to be exposed to 20 Talk and the work you do for mental health, it became very quickly much bigger than me. And it was very rewarding, especially on days like that Burns Beach to Freo run, to see the impact that it was having on people who I'd never met.
I mean, there was a couple of hotels we went past on the coast, and everyone was on the balconies waving, and it was a bit of a rock star moment. I think they were waving at me on the bike because I was.
Speaking of rock star moments, looking at the end of the marathon, for everyone that's listening, the way that this 60 marathons ended was actually at Optus Stadium in Perth, which is about, how many people are going to fit? 60,000? No, is it 60,000 people for 60 marathons in 60 days? And so it was a football game that was going on, and he completed his final lap of the whole challenge at quarter time. And so everyone in the whole stadium got to watch him do a lap around the oval. Standing ovation. Thousands and thousands.
What did that feel like?
People.
Oh, man, I think about it every day, put it that way. It was the most surreal thing I've ever experienced, or probably will ever experience. I remember sort of standing along the boundary while it was still the first quarter of the game, and I'm just looking up at all these people, and I was like, oh my God, I have to run around here 400 metres, not fall over, not fucking do a hammy, anything like that. I was shaking. I've never been so nervous. But
you were running so fast too.
Yeah, you were going quick.
Because we had a time schedule for the whole thing, right? And then during the game, there was, I think someone had a kick after the siren, and it chewed like minutes into the time.
Oh, is that what happened?
So we lost time, and then just before I went out, the guy was like, "How quick can you run, mate?" I was like, "Oh, try." And he's like, "You're going to need to go quick. We don't have much time here. If you want to get an interview like at the end, you need to go fast." I was like, "All right." I have to stride it out. It kind of helped with my nerves anyway. I was really running for it, and then when I sort of came around the final bend and I saw like yourself and the crew that on the boundary line, and I just went fired me up. I was almost pretty much sprinting at that point.
Yeah.
Giving out high fives along the boundary. Like it was just
in the last 50 to 100 meters, everyone in the whole stadium just stood up.
Because you were on the grass.
Yeah,
as well.
I was on the grass with Lockie and everyone else, your family members and everyone that was supporting you. It was just like, I don't know. I just felt so emotional just watching it. It was just like
it was a good moment.
I think as I went around, more and more people, because the MC was really getting into it and he was really hyping it up. And then I think as further I went around, the more people realised what was happening.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to the end, it was literally...
It was a bit of a wild moment.
Yeah.
It was surreal.
You're doing this run, obviously it's crazy. It's ridiculous. And you have to have a certain amount of, I guess, mental fortitude and resilience to kind of get through. What kind of mindset were you waking up with every morning to be able to not only work a full day of work, but to trot on the pavement through pain every day? Like, that's just crazy. What kind of mindset did you set for yourself?
I think before I started, there was no doubt in my mind that I wasn't going to finish. I knew I was going to finish. It was just a matter of how difficult is it going to be for me and how am I going to get through it? So I never woke up doubting that I'd get it done. It was more day by day. I was just, all right, what do I need to do today to get me through? Firstly, going to work, and then what's going to get me through the run, and then what's going to get me through recovery and all of that. So it was just a day by day thing. It all varied depending on how I felt. I did different things on different days, eating different things, recovering in different ways when I felt bad versus when I felt good. And it was, just very much a day by day thing.
So we've talked a lot about the psychological component. What about the physicality? Like, how did you pull up at the end of this whole 2,500 Ks? Like, how much weight did you lose? Stuff like that.
Well, I guess I finished it with one toenail I lost about 10 kilos. I think my biggest worry when I started was that I was going to give myself an injury that would last forever or would impact my running for a long time, because my running is such an important part of my mental and physical well-being that I was very much worried that I would do some long-term damage. I managed to sort of get through the first maybe 20 days with no issues at all. It felt amazing, and then I started getting some sort of tendonitis issues flaring up in my feet and ankles, Achilles. Sort of was able to manage that quite well with the physio, Cam Watkins, Dutch physio. Shout out.
Yeah.
He was
he's a machine.
A miracle worker for me. He just helped me with strapping and stretches and rub downs, that sort of thing. He got me through it and told me I could get through it, and that was all good. Struggled a lot during, but managed to push through and come good in the end. But it's definitely been since I've finished, a lingering issue that's definitely impacting my life at the moment for sure, which is a bit of a kick in the teeth. But
so it's still injured.
Yeah, sort of. I haven't really put in a good week since. I have good runs every now and then, and then it'll just blow up. My Achilles just blows up.
So you just got. So it's a waiting time for your whole. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's a recovery thing. It needs, like, tendonitis issues usually just from overload.
Yeah.
Which is pretty expected from 60 marathons, I guess.
Yeah. Who would have thought?
Yeah, I know, right? So it's just a matter of sort of managing my load and not going too hard, which is very much against what I usually do. I usually run every day, usually like 100K weeks minimum sort of thing. At the moment, I'm only doing about 40. I can't really run one day after the other.
Yeah.
And it's been tough, and it was really tough sort of for 2 weeks after I finished running. It was, I guess, in combination with the fact that, I had such a high on that last day, and then I fell into a bit of a blue state. It sort of compounded with that, the fact that I couldn't, when I did feel bad, I couldn't go and run. So I was just in a bit of a rut for quite a while, and just sort of managing that.
I'm interested to hear your perspective. Actually, about 5 or 6 years ago, I ran a marathon. To everyone that's listening, pretty impressive.
One day in a row.
Yeah, one day in a row. And for me, I spent a lot of time training, and then you do your marathon. It's this big thing and a big personal accomplishment. And after that run, I felt kind of blue because I just pretty much gave up on running. I was like, no, I'm not running. And I didn't think I'd run for 3 or 4 months after that. But I felt quite blue afterwards, and I think it's because maybe I had this, I guess, goal, which is achieving this goal and putting all this energy into it, and then after that was complete, I just didn't have something to work toward. Obviously, you're on a much larger scale. Did you have any similar kind of feelings when you finished the run?
I've had similar things in the past when I've trained for so long for something and you achieve it. You obviously have those down times, and I knew this was going to be the case going into it. But for me, it was, even though I was so aware it was going to happen, trying to snap out of it when you're in it, it's so tough. I was in the dark places sort of after it happened. I was crashing. Felt like I had nothing to look forward to anymore. I feel like I've lost my motivation. Didn't have any goals, things like that. And even though I knew this was coming and I knew I was going to feel that way, I still couldn't get myself out of it. And it was like, I wish I'd had more of a plan for when I didn't have a plan. I wish I had, looking back on it, I mentally prepared myself. Plan. Yeah, mentally prepared myself. It was like the storm's coming, but it was like I just thought I could get back into everyday life. Like I was back at work full time 2 days later, and didn't really have a break to sort of reflect. And I thought I could get straight back into running straight away. That wasn't the case. So it was just.
So you're just so focused on the finishing line.
Yeah, that I got to the finish, and then I was just like, oh, what do I do now? I may as well just stay really busy and throw myself back into things, but it just didn't work.
Because I can imagine it'd be all this dopamine and serotonin, also like all the support and the big event and like
the 60,000 people.
60,000 people and, raising all this money, and then it's just like, whew.
You're back at a desk.
Yep.
That's tough.
Yeah. So what about now when you look back, what could you say that out of this whole experience that you have learned about yourself?
I think there's a lot of things. I think the first thing that comes to mind is like I've known how important being physical is for my mental health.
Yep.
But I didn't realise it's for me anyway. It's critical
Yep.
for my mental well-being. I've sort of been lucky enough that I've never really had any major injuries that have sort of put me on the sidelines. But then finishing this and then having these issues and not being able to exercise, it had such a big impact on me. And it's something I've learned that I need to balance. And even if it's not running, I need to do something.
Learn new skills.
I need to learn new skills to stay physical and active, because it was either run or nothing.
Yeah.
It was like, there's so many different things I can do, but I just didn't.
So
and I think that's what I need to learn and improve on.
So on that, what are some goals that you've set for yourself to keep you motivated, to keep that fire burning within you right now? What's a goal that you've set for yourself?
Well, funny enough, I've entered another marathon.
Yeah, really? I saw you were trading a marathon place for a half marathon place.
Yeah, so I entered the Melbourne Marathon, which is in October. And I already had an entry for the Perth Marathon, which is a week before, and I can't run back-to-back marathons at the moment. So that's why I'm trying to offload the full to do a half.
Nice.
So I've set Melbourne's my goal, and that's sort of mid-October, and I'm trying to run faster time. So that's sort of what I'm working towards, but obviously with limited training at the moment. But I do want to start sort of branching out with the things that I'm doing while I'm injured, and sort of maybe get into cycling or something like that. That's going to be a bit of less impact on the body.
That's smart.
But
what do you reckon is the fastest time you could run a marathon in if you boosted it?
I want to go sub 2 hours 50. That's my goal for Melbourne. But that just depends on if I can get some decent training in, because that's a lot quicker than I can run.
I mean, you know that you've got the headspace to do it, to push through regardless, but it's just about the responsibility of how you get through and how you pull out the outside, isn't it, at the end?
Yeah.
No, that's really interesting. Anything else that you've learnt about yourself and who you are?
I guess one thing that I learnt through the whole thing was, and I caught myself a lot of times during it and post, that I need to, when things are getting really busy or if something's really hectic, to just stop and slow down and appreciate what you're in. Because throughout all the runs, I was just hyper fixated on finishing. I wanted to finish. I wanted to tick it off. But I think when I look back on the journey, the finish was, yes, Optus was pretty grand, and it was an unbelievable way to finish it, but there was all the little moments along the way that was so much more significant that I wish I'd stopped and appreciated more. And I became sort of aware of it maybe towards the end of the experience, that I'd stop and appreciate that, hey, there's a guy next to me that's running his first marathon. That's awesome. Or it's an amazing sunset, and I'd just stop and appreciate it, or stop and appreciate what I'm doing and the money raised, rather than thinking about the end goal and thinking about what's next.
Yeah, and it's hard because obviously to complete something that wild, you need to set an outrageous goal, and you need to be forward thinking. You need to push yourself forward. But on the other hand, to actually enjoy it, you need to take a step back, and that's really challenging itself. I myself personally struggle with this all the time. I'm living in the future in my brain. I'm thinking 5, 10, 20 years ahead with my finance, with my career, with everything. And it really hurts me because I don't actually get to enjoy the moment. And that sucks, because you work so hard to get where you are. But if you're always wanting the next thing, you never stop to smell the roses and enjoy life, which is pretty shit.
Yeah, I think, it's so easy to not live in the moment that you lose appreciation for how good it can be. I know, I can't remember who I was speaking to the other day, but we were saying maybe in a few years things will get better, but then you realise, you look back on where you are now and you realise that times was when you were the happiest, or when you were most enjoying life. So it's no matter where you get in life, we're all going to eventually die one day, and you're going to look back on these moments, and you just need to live more in those moments, I think.
Yeah, you got to appreciate, be present. That's something I even struggle with.
Well, I got a bit. What's everyone appreciate? What's one thing that you appreciate right now that you're grateful for in this moment?
In this moment, a lot of my peers, so people in their 30s, no, 50s, are working flat out hours under the pump, crazy. But I've pulled out of that. I'm working, but I'm not crazily under the pump. So I appreciate the fact that I'm being more present now than I ever have. So my challenge is sometimes looking at other people and going, I want to do more, but not actually appreciating the fact that I'm not now in the fast lane. So I appreciate that now, but that's a discipline that I've had to learn but still struggle with. But I appreciate being more present now.
Is it a discipline you've had to learn, or a way you've kind of had to transform your life and step?
I've had to make changes to be able to do that. But I appreciate that. It's been hard to do because you feel like to be successful, I have to be in the fast lane and trying to be going faster than what the fast lane's going. But that's actually not sustainable.
Oh, I like that. That's nice. What about yourself, Mitch?
Yeah, I think I'm very appreciative of. There's a lot of opportunities that have probably branched from what I've done. Like, I knew that putting myself through all this pain and striving for such a crazy goal would obviously have benefits, but it's just opened a lot of little avenues in my life. Like, I'm here right now talking to you guys on a podcast. Like, that's something I never thought I'd do, or to do anything significant enough to be on a podcast. At work, I'm sort of, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of opportunities that can open themselves up for me at work. People sort of listen a little bit more to what I have to say sometimes because maybe I've gained a bit more respect. I don't know.
Yeah. That's huge.
For doing something that big. And then I guess personally, it's just I really appreciate. I now know what I'm capable of, and I can do anything.
That's powerful.
I appreciate that
That's
I've
huge.
put myself through something that I can now sort of do whatever I want with. So I guess I'm very grateful for all the opportunities.
I mean, that opportunity I saw you in the other day, where I saw that hand modelling ad that you did, and that was just awesome. I think you really cut out for it.
Yeah, for sure.
He's actually trying to divert so that we don't ask him the question. But what are you? What are you in the closing minutes? What are you?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, well, so for me, last week I went up to Exmouth to be able to travel and work on 20 Talk, and we did some interviews up there. And for me, there was this one moment where I was handing out stickers on the top of a mountain at the lighthouse in Exmouth, and I handed out about 40 stickers to different people, and across those 40 people, nearly like 25 to 30% of the people knew who 20 Talk was.
Oh, wow.
And it was just this really special moment where I got to connect with all of the work we've done in the past, and people actually know who we are, and really felt like enjoyable to be able to speak to me and to people at the 20 Talk team. So it was just a really nice feeling in the weirdest place on the top of a mountain. There was 25% of 40 people, 10 people
in the middle of the bush.
Yeah, in the middle of the bush. So it was a really nice reflection. But that brings us to the end of the podcast. We've got a minute left. So I appreciate you coming on and
thanks for having me.
Being on again. It's so powerful.
It's so good. And just for your information, I mean, today there was another mental health maintenance course that was done, which you probably funded. So people are getting trained to the day. So thank you.
Training's ramped up. Cheers.